This is the top of page 3 of the study guide for benchmark 2, and here we have some questions that ask us to write equations in slope-intercept form. So let's take a look at the first one here. We're given a slope, we're given a point, so what we're going to end up using is the point-slope formula. It goes this way: y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So we substitute the slope in for m, the point goes in for x1 and y1. So let's go ahead and rewrite what we've got. Y minus 4 equals negative 2/3 times by x minus negative 9. And then from there we distribute, but anytime you see those minus negatives, change those to plus positives. Now let's see what's left over. Y minus 4 equals negative 2/3 x, and then over on this side, off to the side maybe, you might need to write down 2/3 times by 9 over 1. Do the reducing, see what's left over. So you got 6 left over, and so it's a negative 6, and that's where most people make the error right there, so careful on the sign. Negative times a positive makes that negative 6. So from there, all you have to do is move that 4 over. So we're having to add that 4 to both sides. Opposite signs there, so we end up subtracting. So we've got a y equals negative 2/3 x minus 2. Well, let's take a look at the next one. This one is same sort of thing, same concept there, just using that point-slope formula. So let's substitute those numbers in. Remember, this is your x1 and this is your y1. So y minus negative 2 equals the slope, 3/5, times by x minus 10. So you do some work there. Again, whenever you see a minus negative, quickly change it to plus positive and distribute and see what's left over. So what we have is a y plus 2, and it all equals 3/5 x, and then a minus. Now, off to the side, we might need to do 3/5 times by 10 over 1. So 5 goes into the 10 2 times. So you multiply, another 6. Watch the sign, though. It's a minus 6 still. And then from there, we just do that opposite operation. So we're going to subtract the 2 from all sides. Same sign there, so we end up having to add those two numbers. So we end up with a y equals 3/5 x minus 8. And there is our answer. Well, on this one, we have to find the slope. So all you're going to do is just cross off one of the points and then find the slope. Remember, the slope formula goes this way: y minus y1 over x minus x1. It's always the difference of y's on top, because slope is steepness, and we're concerned more about the steepness of the line than how much we have to go over. So 0 over 3, or 0 minus 3, those are the y values. Now, since I started with 0, I got to start with negative 1 minus 0. You do that work there, and we end up with just a negative 3 over negative 1, which just reduces down to 3. So m is 3. So from there, just pick one of the points. Oh, it doesn't matter which one. This one's the easiest one right here. So if I pick that point, I would have y minus 3 equals, and then I have 3 times by x minus 0. And so when I distribute, I still have that y minus 3 equals 3x. So all you have to do is add that 3 to both sides, and you get your answer. So there it is, y equals 3x plus 3. Well, one more like that. Again, just cross off one of the points. Still, I'll cross off this one, and then just subtract those y values. So it's 3 minus 2 on top. Down below, I would have a, since I start with the 3, I got to start with the 2, 2 minus 4. This one gives us a fraction. 1 over negative 2, which is the same as negative 1 over 2. It doesn't matter where the negative sign goes. Most people like it up on top. So go ahead and take a point. Let's take this one here, 2, 3. So we'll put that 3 in for y1, and then equals negative 1/2 times by x minus 2. So we do some work there and distribute. We've got y minus 3 equals negative 1/2 x. Now off to the side, might need to write down negative 1/2 times by negative 2 times by negative 2 over 1. So those 2's cancel out, leaving us just with 1. And the negative signs cancel as well. So from there, it's just a matter of moving that 3 over. So we have to add that 3 to all sides. And so I'm left with a y equals negative 1/2 x plus 4. That would be our answer. Well, changing gears a little bit here, the next two problems ask us to figure out what the slopes are. We need to know slopes of parallel and perpendicular lines. And so it says just find the perpendicular slope. Well, to find the slope, I need to get y by itself. So we need to subtract 2x from all sides. And when we do that, we got negative 4y equals negative 2x plus 10. The 10 is not really going to affect the problem a whole lot. All I'm concerned with is the slope. So when I divide by negative 4, which each term gets divided, I end up with this. I've got a y equals, and then here I'm going to reduce the fraction. So it makes a 1 over 2x, and then it makes a negative 10/4, which is 5 halves. That 5 halves isn't doing anything. This is what we're looking for right here. That 1 over 2. Well, that's the slope. Well, we want the perpendicular slope. So remember, perpendiculars have opposite sign and reciprocal slopes. So our perpendicular slope is going to end up being the opposite sign, negative, and then 2 over 1, which is just 2. So negative 2 would be the slope we're looking at. So parallel means same slopes. All you have to do is get that y by itself. So first thing, add the 3x. So we got this 2y equals 3x plus 4. Well, from that point, you just need to divide by 2, and you'll have it. So when we do that, we're left with a y equals 3 halves x plus 2. Well, 3 halves, that's our slope. We want the parallel slope. Well, parallel slope is the same slope, so 3 over 2 would be our answer. Now let's take a look at another one here. We've got in perpendicular slope. Make sure you look at what you're trying to solve for. Get y by itself. So we'll subtract that 3x from all sides. We're left with a 4y equals negative 3x plus 12. So from that point, do some opposite operations. Divide by 4. Divide each of those terms by 4. And here's what we have left over. We've got a y equals, and it makes a negative 3/4 x plus 3. Well, there's my slope, but I want the perpendicular slope. So perpendicular slope is going to be opposite sign, so it's positive, and it's reciprocal as well, 4/3. Well, another parallel slope here. Need to do some opposite operations. Subtract that 5x from all sides. Subtract that 5x, and what we've got left over, we've got the 3y equals negative 5x plus 9. And one more step there, that's just to divide by 3. Remember, you're dividing all numbers by 3, so we're left with a y equals negative 5/3 x plus 3. So there's the slope we want. Which one do we want? We want the parallel slope. Parallel slope is exactly the same, negative 5/3. Well, those are parallel and perpendicular. Here's some solving of systems. So we've got a couple different ways we can solve. Whenever y is by itself, or x is by itself, I'm using substitution. I'm going to take this 2x minus 2, I'm putting it in for y right there. It's the fastest way. Negative 6x plus 3. Now, whenever you have a coefficient in front of the term you're substituting, put parentheses around that expression. And then you're going to end up having to use the distributive property. So distribute that 3 over those numbers. And here's what we get. Negative 6x plus 6x minus 6 equals 3. Ooh, something strange happens here. Look at this. These are canceling out. We're left with negative 6 equals 3. But negative 6 doesn't equal 3. So what this means is we have parallel lines. And parallel lines don't cross. Don't cross. And so what we say is that there is no solution. No point where those lines are going to end up crossing on our coordinate plane that we use. So there is our answer. Here's another example of the substitution method. Take this expression right here and plug it in for x right there. So let's see what's left over when we do this. So we've got a 4. Make sure you put the parentheses around that negative y minus 4 because you got to distribute that 4 over that expression. Then I got 4y equals negative 16. So we do some work there. And we've got to distribute, and when I do that, I end up with a negative 4y minus 16, all equals. And then I get, oops, not equals yet, but a plus. So let's fix that. So plus 4y equals negative 16. So from that point, we go ahead and combine some like terms, and I see right away, ooh, these guys are going to cancel also. I'm left with another one of those situations where all the variables cancel, but this time they equal. So when they equal, that means we have the same line. So if they're the same line, that means every point on the line is going to be a solution. So we have infinitely many solutions here. Infinitely many solutions. That's what they'll end up saying on the test if that was the answer. Here's the symbol for infinite. Well, here's a good one for the elimination method. So I'm going to cancel out my y's here, because the y's and x's are lined up. Let's multiply just by 3. Every number there by 3. We've got 3x minus 3y equals negative 9. And so from that point, we can go ahead and add them together. See, the y's will cancel. We're left with an 8x equals negative 8. And so when you do that reducing, in this case dividing, divide by 8, we end up with x at negative 1. Take that negative 1 and substitute it. Put it in for x. Let's put it in for this x right up there. So we'd have negative 1 minus y equals negative 3. So you just got to solve for y here. So you've got a couple steps. We're going to first add 1 to both sides. And when I do that, I'm left with a negative y equals negative 2. So I divide by negative 1, and we've got our answer, y at 2. So there it is. Negative 1 comma 2 is the answer. Point where the two lines cross. Well, one more problem to solve. This one we have to multiply 2 equations. I'm going to take this one and multiply it by 7. Multiply this one by negative 2. So every number on top is getting multiplied by 7. Got 35x plus 14y. This all equals negative 7. Down below we got negative 6x minus 14y equals negative 22. So I had to make a decision which one to cancel out. I decided to cancel out the y's to start with. And that's what happens here when I add these together. Left with a 29x equals, so this equals 29, negative 29. So when I solve for x is negative 1. Take that negative 1 and substitute it. Put it in the easier one, whichever one that is. Maybe this one up here. And solve. So 5x. But in place of x, put that negative 1 plus 2y equals negative 1. So that makes a negative 5 plus 2y equals negative 1. Got to add that 5 to all sides. And it gives us 2y equals 4. So divide by 2. That's how they end up with 2 as y as well. So negative 1 comma 2. Hey, the same answer we had in the last one. Just so happens they cross the same spot. Well, try the next part. We'll go over more problems.